A crocodile captured in Panhung in the new territories. More tourists come and visit Hong Kong as the mainland's Golden Week holiday continues. And a drone strike on Russian fuel storage facility in Crimea. Hello and welcome to TVB News. A crocodile was seen in Panhung in the new territories this afternoon. Officers captured the reptile 4 hours after it was first spotted by a resident. Veronica Lin has the story.
Spotted, a rare 1 meter long crocodile. Even with its mouth closed, its sharp teeth are still visible. After discovering the reptile in Panhung's Lim Fa Te village, a woman reported the sighting to police at around 1 p.m., saying there was an uninvited guest. The croc was in an area surrounded by barbed wires and iron sheets, just a short distance away from the streets. Police sealed off the area, keeping the public away. An aerial view shows that there is a field of vegetables near the village house. However, there is no river nearby. Some residents were worried about their safety. This villager, surnamed Kwok, said it's still a predator, and he's worried that there might be more than one. His first reaction to the news was to laugh it off, as he thought it was a joke. This youngster said if it doesn't cause harm to others, the croc should be captured and returned to its original residence. Starting at 4:30 p.m., police and agriculture, fisheries, and conservation department officers started the manhunt. The crocodile hid in the water nearby. Around 5:30 p.m., it was successfully captured using tools such as shield. The reptile did not seem to resist much. The officers then wrapped tape around its snout and limbs and locked it away in a cage. So, where did this beast come from? Experts say since Hong Kong isn't home to any wild crocodile species, it's likely that this particular one had been kept illegally by an owner. Guang Longying of the Hong Kong Society of Herpetology Foundation said that it's no surprise that it was discovered near farmland. If it was once kept as a pet, it would associate humans with its food source, such as livestock. Under the Protection of Endangered Species of Animals and Plants Ordinance, it's an offense to trade or own a crocodile without a permit and punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a fine of $10 million. Over the past 2 decades, crocodiles have only been spotted in Hong Kong a handful of times. In 2003, a crocodile named Pui Pui spent months on the loose before it was captured and later sent to the Hong Kong Wetland Park. Pui Pui is now the star attraction of the park. Veronica Lin, TVB News.
On the second day of the May Day holiday, a large number of mainland tourists continue to flock to the city's landmarks. By 4 p.m. today, around 220,000 people had entered Hong Kong. Many tourists decided to visit new local attractions, including the Palace Museum. The Mosang reports.
What is better than starting your day by visiting a museum? Outside the Hong Kong Palace Museum in West Kowloon this morning, long queues could be seen. This sign says there are limited tickets to be purchased for today, and each person is allowed to buy a maximum of 4 tickets per time. Many visitors were mainlanders who came to the city to spend their Golden Week that had begun on Saturday. While some people traveled in tours, many came by themselves. This man said he discovered the museum on some mainland travel blogs, making him want to see how different the local Palace Museum is from the Beijing one. This woman came from Shenzhen who also took advice from travel blogs. She said she wants to have a deeper understanding of the city's history. Not everyone likes to spend a day indoors. For those who wish to enjoy sunshine and nature, the famous local island Chenzhou is the place to go. For instance, this tourist said Chenzhou offers a completely different living style to the city's urban areas, which he likes.
呢個行程似乎好倉促咯咁樣。
Despite more than 150,000 travelers arriving in Hong Kong on Saturday, the Executive Director of Tourism Association, Timothy Choi, said the number of tourists was less than anticipated. Speaking on a TVB program, tourism sector lawmaker Perry Yu hopes the city's tourism industry can build up a good reputation over the May Day holiday, attracting more visitors in future. Meanwhile, Yu expressed concerns about the manpower shortages in different sectors, saying this factor could hinder Hong Kong's full capacity to return to normal. The lawmaker suggested authorities allow daily commuting from the mainland to solve the situation. Mimos 9, TVB News.
Today marks the second day of the Gourmet Food Fair at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Centre in Wan Chai. Numerous residents were seen queuing for same-day tickets. Many were armed with shopping trolleys or recycled bags. Next weekend, more food fairs will be held in Sha Tin and Kwun Tong waterfront. Residents can also expect to see fairs in Wong Tai Sin, Yuen Long, and more. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the Happy Hong Kong events, along with the consumption voucher scheme, would consolidate the city's economic recovery in the second quarter. He added that the happy atmosphere would boost consumption as well as the economy. The producer responsibility scheme on glass beverage containers will be fully implemented tomorrow. Glass bottle manufacturers and importers will have to pay a container recycling levy of 98 cents for every 1 liter bottle they distribute in Hong Kong. They will also have to fulfill other obligations, such as reporting to the government, keeping records, as well as submitting annual audit reports. Suppliers can apply for a levy exemption if they have a recovery and reuse arrangement for the containers. The Environmental Protection Department has so far received around 900 such applications and granted exemptions to 2 suppliers. Suppliers must register with the department before distributing glass-bottled beverages. Otherwise, it will be an offense punishable by up to $100,000. A drone strike set a Russian fuel storage facility in the Crimean port of Sevastopol ablaze on Saturday. Russia accused Ukraine of carrying out the attack, but Kyiv did not claim responsibility for it. The incident comes as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned Russia for conducting large-scale airstrikes on his country last Friday. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces have asserted they remain in control of a key supply route into the besieged eastern city of Bakhmut. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The drone strike in Sevastopol sent a vast column of black smoke into the sky. The city's Moscow-installed governor Mikhail Razvozhev blamed Ukraine for the attack. He later said the fire had been put out before a disaster occurred. A Ukrainian military intelligence official said more than 10 tanks with a capacity of about 40,000 tons of oil products intended for use by Russia's Black Sea Fleet were destroyed. Moscow has accused Kyiv of sending waves of aerial and seaborne drones to attack Crimea. Andrei Yusov, a Ukrainian military official, did not say Ukraine carried out the attack. Instead, he said the blast was God's punishment for a Russian strike on the Ukrainian city of Uman on Friday that killed 23 people. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kyiv would do all it could to ensure that those responsible for that attack on the central city will be held accountable as soon as possible. Russia fired missiles at cities across Ukraine on Friday as people slept in what were Moscow's first large-scale airstrikes on the country in nearly 2 months. The strikes came as Ukraine prepares for a counter-offensive to push Russian forces back from territory they seized since invading in February 2022. Ukraine says control of all of its legal territory, including Crimea, is a key condition for any peace deal. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian military spokesperson said Kyiv remains in control of a key supply route into Bakhmut as Russian forces, spearheaded by the mercenary Wagner Group, continue their assault on the eastern city. Kyiv has pledged to defend Bakhmut, which Russia sees as a stepping stone to attacking other cities in Ukraine. However, Wagner Group founder Yevgeny Prigozhin said his forces have advanced some 100 to 150 meters in Bakhmut. He claimed this has left just under 3 square kilometers of the city in Ukrainian hands. Dan Rell, TVB News.
Russia has promised it will respond harshly to what it said was Poland's illegal seizure of its embassy school in Warsaw. They called it a violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Police arrived at the school early on Saturday, and people were seen removing furniture later in the day. A foreign ministry spokesman said the building belonged to the Polish state and the seizure is legal. Russia's foreign ministries say Polish authorities burst into the embassy school's grounds and they regard this as a hostile act. Diplomatic relations between the countries are already strained over the war in Ukraine. Paraguay is holding elections in what may be seen as a challenge to the Conservative Party that has governed the country for almost 70 years. The elections are for president and Congress, but the ruling Colorado Party is facing discontent over health, schools, and corruption. The result could also have implications for Paraguay's relations with Taiwan. The opposition coalition has vowed to review the relationship should it win. The two main candidates are Santiago Peña of the ruling party and veteran opposition lawyer Efrain Alegre. One factor will be turnout, as usually only 6 in 10 Paraguayans vote. Police in America are searching for a suspect who shot at 5 of his neighbors, including an 8-year-old. The suspect has been named as 38-year-old Francisco Oropeza from Cleveland, Texas. He was shooting his gun in his yard when his neighbors asked him to keep the noise down. Police say after declining their request, footage from a doorbell camera shows him approaching their front door with his AR-15 rifle. The 5 victims were Honduran, all under 31 years old, with one a young boy. 3 other children were covered in blood but are unharmed. The adults shielded them from the bullets. Still ahead on tonight's news. A tiered penalty system for delayed MPF contributions by employers being considered. Hong Kong Electric will offer a special fuel rebate next month. And in the UK, preparations for King Charles's May 6th coronation. Welcome back. The Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Authority revealed it is considering ramping up penalties for delayed MPF contributions by employers. They include introducing a progressive rate of surcharges if employers fail to settle outstanding balances after the grace period. Under the current law, employers failing to pay their mandatory contributions to MPF trustees on time have to pay a 5% surcharge on the outstanding amount, no matter how long the payment has been delayed. Now, harsher penalties might be on the way. That's unveiled in the latest blog post by Ayesha McPherson Lau, chairman of the Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Authority, who noted the upswings in both the total amount of delayed MPF contributions and the number of workers affected year on year. A notable surge in the number of non-compliant employers, too, as reflected in the hike in the number of MPF and surcharge notices issued over the past 2 years. The latest figure stands at 350,000, which marks a 9% jump year on year. And only some 30% of the employers cleared their outstanding balances within 14 days after the notices were issued. To step up the deterrent effect, the MPF Schemes Authority chairman revealed they are studying the possibility of introducing a tiered surcharge arrangement, under which the later you repay, the higher the late fees will be. Liberal Party chairman and retail sector lawmaker Peter Hsu said that would take away the breathing space from the business sector, which just weathered 3 years of the pandemic.
After 3 years pandemic, now all those SME in Hong Kong try to recover. It's not a right timing for adding a lot of the extra costs for business and all those business sector.
Hsu said Chief Executive John Lee also just confirmed the MPF offsetting mechanism will be abolished in 2 years, which will prevent employers from using the pension funds for severance and long service payments. So it's not ideal for the government to heap further financial pressures on businesses. The MPF chief added when the eMPF platform becomes fully operational, it will substantially raise the efficiency for enforcement work. Workers, too, can more easily monitor the status of their pension funds. Hong Kong Electric will offer a special fuel rebate next month. That's by freezing the fuel cost charge at 90.6 cents per unit of electricity. The charges are adjusted monthly to reflect the change in fuel costs. The charges were supposed to increase by 1.1 cents to 91.7 cents in May. A Hong Kong Electric spokesperson said considering how international fuel prices have eased in recent months, they decided to keep the level of charges unchanged. The power firm added they believe the charges are expected to dip by around mid-2023. Under the scheme of control agreement between the government and Hong Kong Electric, the fuel cost is charged directly without any profits taken from the customers. Meanwhile, CLP Power, which provides electricity to Kowloon and the New Territories, earlier announced for the special rebates on fuel charge costs between April and June. It is frozen at the level of March, and that's 62.8 cents per unit of electricity. After a 3-year hiatus, the Cheung Chau Bun Festival will return on May 26. Earlier, the selection competition was held to choose the fastest 12 contestants to compete in the final. The selection competition for the Bun Festival took place at the Pak Tai Temple Playground on Cheung Chau this afternoon. The 97 candidates were divided into groups of 4 and had to first compete in a preliminary round. They were asked to reach the designated height and to pat their hands with flour, a gesture to signal they had finished the competition. The 24 candidates with the best results in the preliminary round can enter the semi-finals. The Stone of Scone, the coronation stone on which British monarchs have been crowned for centuries, is now at Westminster Abbey for King Charles's May 6 coronation. Also known as the Stone of Destiny, its origins are unknown but is believed to have been used in the inauguration of Scottish kings as far back as the early 9th century. Matthew Bray reports.
A service was held at Westminster Abbey Saturday to welcome the Stone of Scone, moved from Edinburgh Castle on Friday and set to play a key role in the coronation of King Charles III. The 125-kilogram sandstone stone carries significant symbolism for Scots. It was returned to Scotland in 1996, having been in London for 700 years. Seized by Edward I in 1296, it was incorporated into the coronation chair and used in ceremonies for monarchs since.
Well, of course, the stone being back here is a sense of real unity. There's a big history behind this, which started with a bit of enmity, and then the late Queen brought it back in a kindness to Scotland in 1996. And it comes down as a unity symbol of friendship and part of Scotland's contribution to the coronation.
Another key part of the coronation, the robes Charles will wear. These will be the same vestments that Queen Elizabeth II wore during her own coronation. The super tunica is woven from gold cloth and has goldwork embroidery.
So both the super tunica and the imperial mantle were last worn at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II on the 2nd of June 1953, so they haven't been worn for 70 years. As part of our care of items in the collection, obviously they're very carefully looked after. They're usually on display, in fact, in the Tower of London because they form part of the coronation regalia, the royal regalia. And so in readiness for the coronation on the 6th of May, we've been preparing them as part of all the very myriad of preparations.
Also rehearsing the 700 Coldstream Guardsmen, officers and bandsmen for the procession that will follow King Charles to Buckingham Palace from the Abbey next Saturday. There will be some 8,000 people in the parade in what was termed a complex operation. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.